Pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Lisa.
Here.
Lori.
Here.
Chuck.
Here.
Linda. Here. Tanya. Here. Can't write that. Tom.
Here.
Jeremiah.
Here.
All present and accounted for. We need to look at the agenda. Take a look. Anybody have a question, or Mr. Croke, are there additions to the agenda?
Sure. So initially, I think I put it in the information sheet, the hiring of Amy Langford as a high school secretary. Your call, Madam Chair, relative to where you want to put that.
Can we do it in the consent?
I think you can. I think you can. Yeah.
Then let somebody pull it out if you want. Okay. Any other ones?
The second item would be under the consent agenda would be item E7, approving membership to MREA. Those materials did not come. So I maybe you do it in July when we have them. I just soon you see what you're paying for dues and such, so delete that. And then also at your station then this evening, we did receive, so you could probably replace E7 with recognizing the receipt of the intent to negotiate with the Long Prairie Gray Eagle Principals Association. So put that in there. And of course, that's very, obviously it's common with all the bargaining groups in the district.
Right. I need a motion to accept the agenda.
All motion.
One second.
Tom. Any further discussions? Any discussions? Any discussions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We are conducting a hearing on the renewal of the district operating levy. Correct?
That is correct.
All right, so folks have questions about the operating levy. This is the levy that the board can approve to just do without voter consent. So I guess you have questions, we can try to answer those.
I think it'd be important to add in there too that we are just renewing this. This isn't
Right,
this
it's a
isn't new
renewal,
one.
yeah.
So these are already funds that our school receives that we'd like to continue to receive going forward.
Everybody's so quiet. There it is. The state has elected to allow us to do this once in the 10 years that the levy is good for. Depends on what they do if we get another chance to do this 10 years down the road. So it should be the same dollar figure that we pay this year.
So the amount then, as you can see, then the district receives is $512,122. Those are as Jeremiah indicated, those are dollars that are already filtered into the district and that are currently functioning for us in many areas, from salaries to supplies, professional development. All of these different areas, and so that's a very important source of revenue for us. The design is that the idea that the per pupil formula increase that is set by the legislature, mostly on a biannual basis, has not kept up with the rate of inflation. over the years, and as such, then it has forced districts to go to what's referred to then as an operating levy. There are two within the Long Prairie Grey Eagle District that have been formatted over the years and approved by the voters. And so this is a renewal for another 10 years of the first operating levy, or the first levy authority. And as such then, we're allowed, or we're required by law to hold a hearing. And about the renewal, again, is a renewal at the same amount that's been authorized by the voters. And then this would be for another 10 years.
Oh, shit, excuse me. Fucking thing. Never fails.
All right, so do we have any questions further?
Does this meeting, is the meeting, right?
Hearing, yep.
Okay.
And we do need a motion on that. Yes,
You will do that
later, got it.
Yep, we'll do it later in the meeting.
All right, as long as there's no more questions, we'll go moving on. I need to approve the consent agenda.
Madam Chair, we need a motion to.
He said we'll do it later. It's
Okay.
later in the agenda, it's down
All right.
there. So, I need a motion to accept the consent agenda with the changes that we stated before.
I'll make that motion, Madam Chairman.
I'll second it.
Is there any further discussion? Any discussions? Discussions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. We don't see any children out there? Nope. Guests on the list, Jenny, were there any? No. Okay. Program reports, activities. She is not here tonight. She had a previous engagement with her family. So you read her report, I believe. Anything we want to talk about?
That's congratulations to the track people that made it to the state and placed.
Track shooting kids did well too.
Yes, they did.
Thank goodness they went last week and not this week, because they've been like delayed and everything this last few days, and they had to take shuttles the other day because it was flooded like over the weekend. So it was nice they got good weather for it.
We get to hear it a lot.
I bet.
Yeah.
It was nice to see her report on the ticket and the concession stand, the money that's made that way. So that's good.
That's good, yeah.
I like that. Anything else for activities? Alrighty, Mr. Evenson. Are you busy this summer, are you?
Yeah, I got a few things going on.
21st century is still an unknown?
I got a thing today, we got a correspondence that we're still in the hunt and they're thinking, which I thought was good, because it looks like the amounts of people have narrowed, at least that they talked to. But it says that they will be making, Mr. Froggaard too, will be making a decision in sometime in early July. We'll find out. Yeah, there is good hope there.
All right, good. Any further questions for Mr. Evenson? Alrighty then, technology. I had little questions here. I've gotten a parent call, concerned about the Chromebook changes for 7th and 8th grade, so who do I talk to? They want to know how come 7th and 8th graders aren't going to have their Chromebooks?
Well, that came down, that was a discussion at the administrative level. Due to the number of Chromebooks being damaged, we had 56%, over half our Chromebooks have come from damage. That along with the non-academic use at home, look at the long range, and start looking at the classes of $20 Chromebooks and trying to get as much life out of them, and what is not being done at home in the academic end. The administration, along with that, Mr. Gansky, felt that probably best that we limit the use in school, but they'll still be able to check them out if there's a need for them at home. So it's instead of giving them to them, students are gonna have to proactively and say, I need to check this out because I need this at home. So we're not shutting the valve off completely. The handbook will obviously reflect that going forward, but at this point, this is probably the best answer as we look at, the amount of damage, and Ms. Tearaway is working on that. And that's, I'll be honest with you, proverbial. It's one of those things we hit every year, and I hear from Ms. Tearaway the amount of damage, and you have the conversations with the students, we have insurance policies, all that. We're still sending these Chromebooks, and it's a cost to the school. And it would be one thing if he came back, and Mr. Gantz has got all the data on that, I don't have the data in front of me, but you look at the amount of non-academic use at home, then you start weighing, okay, if they're not gonna, we'll still open it up. If you wanna check it out, go and see Ms. Tearaway, she'll check it out each day, sign off for it, and you get to take one home. That's not out of realm. We're just not gonna hand them out to everybody like we would with 9th through 12th grade.
So then 2 questions, are you going to give them time so they can catch their buses after school to check out?
Well, they'll have time throughout, we'll work this out within the schedule, but you're gonna have before school, you're gonna have lunches, breakfast, there's plenty of time, Ms. Tearaway is available. Plus, you can go down and see her, there's not like you cannot leave the classroom and to go and see her. So there's plenty of time throughout the day. So if the kids, it comes to the end of the class period, we'll work that out with the staff. The students feel that they need to go and see Ms. Tearaway, let them out, go see Ms. Tearaway before they,
Because I know I've helped Kylie with enough homework, she needs it for every single class.
And she might be one of those students, so we're gonna give this a shot. If it doesn't work out, we'll pull back, figure it out from there. I just think that overwhelmingly, we're gonna be looking at a smaller percentage checking the Chromebooks out at this point. But it's really going to be a cost item on that end.
For sure.
It's also just what other schools are doing. They're pulling back. They're saying that they're not being used at home like they should be. And they're just, we're not the only school doing this. There's other schools that are doing K-12, leaving school and check out when we need to. So it's going back from what it was.
The whole program was to be a one-on-one school. But if you can't, you can't. Kids can't be respectful of the equipment either.
Right.
So, all right, I just wanted to talk about that.
We'll see how it works.
Well, that's all you can do.
Right, yep.
So it's in motion then, basically. Sounds wonderful. Anything else for Mr. Gansky? You doing anything with your summer hours, are you?
Not time. Non-stop, yes.
Is the high school interfering with anything you gotta do?
Not at the moment. I've been attending a couple meetings, but we'll be getting the new HVAC software up and running, and the whole system's gonna be computer-based now. So more stuff for tech department to make sure it stays running.
That's good.
Yep.
Alrighty. Anything else you wanna ask the technology people? Okay, then moving on. We are at the principals. Any questions for them? Oh, she's got words to say to us.
I know, I'm gonna discuss this packet that I handed to you guys. So the Minnesota READ Act Literacy Plan, that is what MDE calls this document that I just gave you. It's not something that needs approval because it's already been submitted. It was due June 15th. It was submitted in May, but what it is the literacy plan that I had to submit last year. This is the report So it's got the data on it, and then it has, and this isn't in my report because we just got it back. This is the plan report, and then it's the new plan. So it's going to look like on our website that we have an old document, but this is what MDE has called it. So it's the 24-25 literacy plan, but it's the report. So if you guys, I want to go through a couple things because you might get questions on it because I know everybody's going to read it really thoroughly. So page 3 has our last year's goal, which was to train all K-12 staff in structured literacy. That's the READ Act training. And then it has the new literacy goals for 25-26, which is to begin to implement those structured literacy plans that we all learned about, all the training and things. So there's a few details in there. It's also to increase our reading proficiency based on our structured literacy training. So I'm not going through line by line, I promise. But if you would turn to page 6, this is new language that is going to come up, and I might as well explain it right away. It's called dyslexia screening, summary student count for K-12, and then 2 pages later is 4 through 12. But this is K-3, and if you look at the chart, it looks like for kindergarten, 60% of our students have characteristics of dyslexia. That is not the case. None of those numbers are specifically that. What it asked me for was numbers of kids that, for whatever reason, are not reading at grade level. And then the state puts them in a chart that says they all have characteristics of dyslexia. However, we all know our students, and so I wrote them down so I don't forget any, but these include new students coming from different districts that might be at different places. They are language learners, they're special ed students, et cetera. And yes, some of them do have dyslexia characteristics, but that is not a diagnosis at all. It says it right up at the top. It says demonstrating characteristics of dyslexia is not the same as a diagnosis of dyslexia. So yes, while I'm sure we do have kids with characteristics of dyslexia, it is not all of these children. So keep that in mind. One hard part when they're clumped together like this is to differentiate. And so next year, we will be adding in an assessment called CAPD, and Beth and I have been doing lots of trainings on this. And CAPD is a new screener for characteristics of dyslexia as well as other areas of need for our students. And that will be given through, is it starting in 4th grade? Thank you. Carissa's been reading up on it too. So 4th grade on up will be taking this. And so this is something new and in addition to our fast bridge testing, and we don't know what it's going to cost yet, just so you know that too. So unfortunately, it's not an optional thing. If you turn to page 8, again, same information, just this is the 4th through 12th grade students, same students demonstrating characteristics of dyslexia. We were able to drill down slightly more with a couple different assessment pieces, but it still includes all of our students. If we go on to page 12, you have probably heard about MTSS, Multi-Tiered Systems of Support. And while Long Prairie Gray Eagle School District does do all of those pieces for MTSS, we are not quite at the MTSS, Minnesota Multi-Tiered Systems of Support. And so that is a project that I'm working on this summer. It's a work in progress, and it's going to continue to be a work in progress because there's multiple pieces that we need to pull together. But we are, whenever somebody asks, yes, we are doing multi-tiered systems of support. We just don't use the exact framework for Minnesota yet. On the page 13, I just wanted to point out that these are the curriculums that we are using in case you're wondering how many minutes we're instructing the students in reading and all of the different things. Curricula is divided into either a knowledge base or foundational skills or both. And so you can see foundational is like your phonics and your learning to read, and then your knowledge base is also your comprehension skills and other parts as well. And so that's kind of the breakdown of that. And then finally, Chuck asked me about the READ Act, and he said, is this everything I need to know? So if you turn to page 15, this is the section about the professional development, which is the READ Act training. And I'm really proud of our staff. Every single one of our staff that did the OLA training passed with well over 80%, which is what was needed. And so 56-ish teachers completed that this year. And then we have another 20-some teachers that are ready to start their second year of letters training. And then the rest of them are already completed with the letters training. So you have an amazing staff that has worked incredibly hard and learned a lot. And nope, it hasn't always been fun, but they have done it, and they've done it to their best ability, obviously. So I just want to publicly thank everybody for working so hard. So any questions on this document?
I think you meant to say, we have an incredible staff. I mean, you're part of that.
We do have an incredible staff, yes.
Clearly, leadership affects that ability.
Well, thank you. So any other questions?
Who does the dyslexia characteristic assessment?
So that is part of what we give with our FastBridge assessments. And so anytime, the characteristics of dyslexia are any kids that fall below grade level. But there's such a connotation with that word dyslexia, and it's not the same as a diagnosis. So they're looking, MDE looks at the definition of characteristics of dyslexia as anyone falling below. And so to me, that kind of gives my heart a little bit of a pause when I hear that, so.
Okay. Makes sense.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you. I agree, staff is wonderful, all of it. Mr. Martin, you have anything?
I just have two things to point out. You got a list of a number of programming coming from the state on the state level, not from us. These are thou shalt. This reaches back, 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, when the state decided to implement 65 different changes in the educational law. These are not all worked out yet at the state level. Right now, some of them are a little tenuous. They're a little bit of information still needing for them to sort out on their end before they push it out to us. I'll be attending my conferences next week, hoping to get glean some information from Roger Aronson. He provides legislative updates for us principals, as he's our lobbyist, but he does all the trainings for us and keeps us on the legal end with the state. So hopefully next week we'll get some more information where this is all going. Even within, if you look at the MDE website, which is good for everybody to take a look at from time to time, and see what's going on. They're pulling back. I've watched some changes in some specific areas that they initially had said they will be coming, and they pulled back because they're getting such flack on it, which is fine because we're really gonna get flack with some of this stuff. So I'm gonna give that to you as we get going on some of this. One of the things you'll see is that we're already working the civics portion out, and we can do that with scheduling. That's not a problem. That's rather easy. The more difficult is parents are gonna be creating classes. Now we have to figure out where we put it in a 7-hour period, because there's only so much room for electives on top of what's coming from the state. So this is gonna be a juggling act, and every school's going through it, we're not the only ones. So I'll be bringing things to you this year as we start getting ready for next year, what class, who's gonna be teaching it, how we're gonna fit this all in. It's kind of a jigsaw puzzle. We've got room, we're in a good spot, we've got room to work. So kids aren't gonna be without. In fact, we're We've got room over in certain different class areas and departments that we'll be able to fit things in, so we're in a good spot. So that makes me very happy. So bear with us as I get more information. I attend 4 meetings a year typically for my association. Those are handbook and law classes, updates, things like that. So as I get that, and that comes from the state legislature and Department of Ed too, because they work through MASSP, Minnesota Association of Secondary School Principals. Tammy is the same thing for elementary. Roger Aronson represents both of us, both of our groups. There's about 2,500 principals in the state, so that's who they're representing. So as that information comes from, they work with the MSBA, and as that information comes, I'll bring that to you so we remain legal, we're doing everything we're supposed to be doing. That's number 1. Number 2, you're also seeing every month I give you that PBIS update. Thank you to Mr. Hibbs who compiles it, he does a great job with that. We made some really changes this year. We put that Thunder Lounge in the spring. We kind of test ran that. We've got that up and running. We're gonna make some changes to that. It's really been a positive, it's been received positively from the students. So looking at that data now, this is the year-end collection. I give you the month-to-month from year to year on that month. Now you're seeing the year from one year to the next. Our numbers have dropped literally in half. And I thank the staff because they've grabbed onto that PBIS. One of the things I was looking at initially was that capturing kids' hearts. If you recall at the MSBA convention, I was part of that group from the company that they wanted representation from somebody to use it. I'd use it in my private school. I basically told them I'm gonna be stealing from that and putting it in our own program. I wanted the program initially, it's a very expensive program, and I didn't want to spend $25,000 on it. It was very intensive for staffing, but I'm glad we went with PBIS, because obviously Tammy and the elementary crew are using it on elementary, it folds right over to the secondary. So the numbers speak for themselves, speaks to staff taking this very seriously and having those conversations, building that relationship with the students. We got Zeus, the wonder dog here, that helps. All these little things that we're making changes on have cut literally everything in half. So I'm not promising something isn't gonna happen. What I'm saying is the frequency for which things happen has really been a positive. So we're starting to, after 3 years of doing this, we're starting to glean some of this from it. So that, and we're going to continue to make different changes, different ideas. We're gonna try different things. I've got some up my sleeve for this year. I'll be bringing to you probably August, when I would be trying. So we're going to continue on that trend. So that's all positive stuff. That's all I've got.
Bart, these are some really good numbers. I mean, just the total discipline incidents, 389, and if you take out tardies, that knocks out a lot of that. So good job to you and your staff for knocking all that stuff down. These are really, really good numbers.
And we're gonna work on attendance. Attendance is a thing that's hitting every school. There's no magic formula for it. So we're gonna try different things. It's a carrot and a stick type of approach, and I don't know, we're gonna try different things to try to get the kids to take that seriously, and that's always a challenge.
And to your note too, the Thunder Lounge does look really nice. I mean, I saw that when we were at graduation, up in the little area there, and those couches, the tables, everything looks really great. Kind of gave me a vibe of like a college type hangout area. So, good job.
We're working on neon, but I can't promise anything. We're working on, I really want neon signage up there, but we'll check that.
All right, we got on to the school board. Anybody been to anything fun and exciting? I want to compliment all the graduations that we did, because I was there for kindergarten, 6th grade, and the high school. All were done very, very well. And kudos to the kids, because they all behaved. It was just very nice, it really was. And good job for the track team, good job for the trap team. I think it was a good spring for a lot of things. The concerts were all wonderful, so. Anybody else go to anything? You were at stuff. You were at stuff this spring, weren't you? Graduation.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
It's fast and go out
I know.
and do so well. Very proud of kids.
Yeah.
Yes, I'd like to say thanks to Audrey and her her helpers for keeping us in line. Yes. For the graduation.
Anything else? We've got Mr. Ludwig's special assignment, district planning, strategic planning.
So I got a little summary on there, including the innovative grant summary. There's a larger one in the paper for the grant requirements. That's going to finish up this fall. Do the timelines. Anybody have any questions on some of that stuff I was sharing?
So we have done some things like with Thunder t-shirt or trying to get the Thunder Pride going. We've done something in that, I believe, last 2 years.
There's a start in the document, the fuller one, and it's still being updated, but it lists some of the stuff that's been done and under consideration. It needs to be gone through again, because obviously a year has passed, so you look at what you've done. The biggest thing that I added to it was the data at the end with, discipline, academics, participation in athletics, communication, so we could take a look at where we are and adjust to where we want to be and reset goals. It'd be really good to review them to see if there's anything we want to change or highlight or put some targets for that we'd like to get to.
Wraps on the doors look kind of cool. Walking into the, especially the high school for graduation, it was kind of cool to see that.
I think we need to do all we can to promote our school and our kids and our parents and teachers. We have very good, wonderful people all over. Okay, are you ready? Mr. Superintendent, it's your turn.
Sure, just a few things here. Try and keep this as quick as we can this evening. So as a point of clarity, item number 1, that May enrollment down 1 for the month. We asked the office staff to run enrollment on the last day of the school year. And that maybe was a little confusing in some of the reports. We had, May's board meeting and then you have June 1, right? And so that's what that was. We tried to delineate the two to separate and get a little bit more clear understanding of those spreadsheets. But anyway, obviously the movement wasn't a lot, which you're glad. You wouldn't think that there would be over the month of May and that kind of thing. So I think the number was 967 at the end. And again, we go kids and seats, right? At that point in time. One of the interesting numbers that is associated with that is that we do periodic reports into the department about, we'll just say, every other month, and that's done by Bonnie Middendorf in our office. And that the first, as it talks about the first ADM, the end of year ADM run from the MDE, as we talk about kids in seats, that number was 1,203. Okay, so in other words, 1,200 kids ran through our system from September to the end of the school year. And so when you talk about that number and how we were this way the entire year, running 960 in that area, 970, it's incredible. And how it stayed there. And then as you get into then the enrollment report, the first drop happened last Monday, where we take a look at that ADM number, which is the number we're funded at, and how we base our budgeting and how we base our payments that are metered to us from the department every 2 weeks. So again, as I kind of noticed, it's kind of a big deal for me. I get excited. It's kind of like the new phone books are out, right? That's an old thing. What was that movie? Can't play straight on, maybe, I don't know. Anyway, 997 and our 997.9, and last year's number was 999. It's incredible. Again, you have 1,200 bodies come through the system and not impact you in a negative way. It's incredible. And so it's also, you could probably look at it the other way too, that we should have seen something more increasing, and we didn't. But as it goes then, 997, 93, there will be submissions we'll see the next drop right around the 4th of July, if not a little bit before, and then August, and then September. And that's when the auditors will grab that number in September and say, that's the number that we'll base your revenues on for this past 24-25 school year. So that's kind of where that's at. I don't want to spend a lot of time because I know that I kind of communicated that with you as soon as that hit last Monday. The other number 2 then was as we talked about about every other month during the course of the year. I was thought this was kind of neat to talk about the $1 million business of $1 million business of the food service program, and we ended up. I will tell you that if you take a look at the bottom number, we ended up as comparison to last year about 8,500 meals short. April hurt us. There's no question about that. That April being the snowstorm, and then the second factor was the change with the HVAC project, right? So we eliminated a few student contact days there, and that then accounts for the shortage in the number of meals throughout the course of the year. So you can kind of see then how that worked out in comparison to 23-24 school year to 24-25. So that will tell you then that revenues in Fund 2, as that comes in, will be slightly less than last year. And so we'll see how that all turns out as the audit draws closer to. There are other factors that impact like commodities and so forth, but again, right now, just to keep an eye on Fund 2, the revenues will be less than what they were last year. So, and as you have to make those decisions, there's a little thing called food service that, we look at, we can go with an e-learning day. That hurts, in another area. And so just keep those things in mind because certainly that's been impactful here. Item 3. Legislature final K-12 bill. Those were items that were in your packet as well, and you saw a lot of things. You all know we talked significantly about the inflationary piece to the funding formula. We'll see a 2.74% increase to the per pupil formula, which will be the basis for your decisions relative to collective bargaining with the various bargaining units and employee groups. That's for the 25-26 school year, 3% for the 26-27 school year. So those numbers are out there now, and it helps you plan going forward as you start the discussions with those groups and formulation of a more solidified budget going forward. The other thing was then the handouts that relative to the compensatory revenue piece. We talked about that last month. The huge swing that we could have seen anywhere ranging from a deficit of $150,000 to $800,000 We survived. We have a 1-year reprieve. We survived, and to see that number come in on a $1.8 million revenue stream to come in $13,000 less than what you're getting right now was amazing. And certainly your legislators here in the area, if you see them, make sure and thank them, because that took a lot of work to get there. And certainly the special session this was a key point of discussion, but the district will have that same amount of revenue, give her again 13,000 on 1.8 million is basically the same. You're gonna face the same issue next year at this time. So I would venture to say that there is going to be a group to talk about that as that funding stream, because it has taken off in terms of the amount of money districts are receiving. The amount of money that the districts are receiving are a revenue source for us. For the state of Minnesota, it is an expense. Okay? So that's the way they look at it. And they have to figure out with their conditions going forward how they're going to fix that. And so you'll wanna pay attention to this group that has been assigned to study the issue as it impacts you significantly. But again, a reprieve for 1 year, and we're in good shape again going forward for the 25-26 school year. Taking a look at the other issue right there, just some ideas. Roof maintenance now can be applied toward LTFM. It was previously, however, most of the time a roof project would drain the LTFM. The dollar amounts for roof projects are significant, and it would take basically all of the year's allocation. So now what they're allowing you to do is if you want to bond for a roof project out of LTFM, you can do that. And so just some things like that are really beneficial. Under the modernized the open meeting law, this will be very interesting to see how the Bureau of Administration addresses this, which would allow Linda to tune in from the board and be an actual voting member of the board while in another location other than here. So it gives a little bit of flexibility to the board members and their obligations on a monthly or bi-monthly basis. So kind of some interesting piece there. And again, we didn't talk a lot about this, but obviously our calendar is set for next year for 26, 27, and 27, 28. You can start before Labor Day. And so that obviously next year is the earliest school can start, that being September 2nd. 26, 27, 28, 7, 28 is the latest. So it gets into September 6th and September 7th. So just some things for you to think about. Let's see, what else? There were a couple other handouts in here. But at any rate, those kinds of things, obviously a very tough session, and a very tough session that the legislators had to go through. It was a 0% increase for K-12 for this year. Well, Doug, how does that work? What do you mean 0? The compensatory was funded at 50 million more for that revenue stream. You've got, we all got 2.74 on the per pupil formula. How does K-12? Well, they took from other areas that people had a passion for. And so that was interesting. And then next year they started to set the table for a $460 million reduction to K-12. So very tough session in that regard. I did provide for the board's review. You could see the individual handouts in terms of spreadsheets and what Long Prairie Grey Eagle schools got in the area of compensatory, student support aid, which we thought we were going to lose. And we were ready to accept it in a trade-off for getting fully funded on compensatory. We were willing to accept that, and they came forward with the full student support aid or level funding there, which impacted us positively. Library aid, we took a little bit of a hit, but again, something that we can address. So just a hard session. It's obviously trying to address feelings on both sides of the aisle, and they got it done. Unfortunately, it was late. It went into special session again. So that impacted us from a budgetary standpoint. So I'm trying to think here. I want to get to some of the other issues here. HVAC project, again, continues to float along in a timely fashion. We're going to be mindful of equipment needs that are coming in. They talked to us last week about that in the weekly construction meeting. If equipment comes in a timely fashion, we should be in good shape to start school on time. We hope that's the case. They're not impacted by weather. They're not impacted by the rain. So they keep going, and so it's amazing how much work they've gotten done in the time that they've been there. Anyway, we continue to be on track and turf. Again, got the contractors on site a little later than we thought, but certainly when they got here, they went to work, and you can obviously drive by and see the fruits of their labor. And we're going to have likely a change order here coming before the board at the July meeting. We have a conversation with the facilities committee after tonight's meeting to go through that change order. So anytime you deal with dirt, there are issues and expenses. So anyway.
Can I just input on that? When you have that meeting, just ask what happened to all the soil borings out there that we did in the past.
Mm-hmm.
They knew what was underneath there.
Yeah.
They should have.
Should have.
Okay.
It's frustrating. Yep, no doubt about it. 287 in Harmony Park, you see that too. I reported it as obviously we've got about 2 weeks with them impacting the school. And so that we're, lots going on. Property and casualty and workman's comp insurance renewal July 1st. Matt Mitzel and Sherry and I met on Friday and went through the policy. They are, as I indicated to you too, that they are negotiations relative to the premium renewal, and that will run right up to the July 1st deadline or renewal deadline. Please know that we are lucky to have the MC has quoted you for a number of years, which is even more interesting. And they are continuing to want to write you and support you in your insurance needs. So that's a good thing. I don't know if there's only about 5 insurance companies in the nation that write schools. Okay, so you need to understand that. This is a very difficult business. Schools are risk. And you've got to have backing behind you to be able to want to carry a school. And the issue has become that some are starting to see themselves being dropped by insurance companies and having to go with the state. And that's not a good thing. And yet you continue to have a good relationship with the MC, and that's good. So again, you'll see that renewal come around in July 1st. I was glad to see, I think your replacement values are in line with what they should be if you would experience a major catastrophe. That was good to see. And so that's a good sign. that your agent of record, Matt, has kept moving that number forward each year, which is that's being good stewards of property, and you've done a good job in that regard. So anyway, it's on here too. Anyway, I had put out some parting thoughts. I'll just go off of this has been a terrific experience. I'm just gonna tell you that. Good luck to you folks. I would tell you that I grew a lot here, and just watching how you function and operate on a daily basis. It was fantastic. I put on that slide, I wish I could remember where I put it in my machines. You have something special here, and you really do. And good luck to you going forward. The things that I thought of right away that I pointed some of the work that's being done from an elementary perspective. I talked with the staff on the last day about the behavior management techniques that are taking place in there. I was just wowed. I told the staff, I had to call some of my colleagues and tell them, you need to come and see this. This is unbelievable. And then I look at some of the things that the high school is ripe for a career-based pathways set. It really is. As you take a look at, go out and take a look at, as an example, the academies of Nashville. The student demographics in Nashville are much like they are here. And in order to keep our economy, because you are a driver of your economy in these communities, in order to keep the cycle of a thriving economy, you need our kids. Our kids are an important part of going and supporting our business and industry. You know, that's the academies of Nashville teach you about, you don't need buildings that are brand new. They will teach you about how anybody, a kid can get a CNA and go and wind up and making $30 an hour on the weekends. That's happening. But how do you formalize that as a foundation of your high school? I put on the slide too the youth science. This doesn't start when you're a junior. It starts when you're a freshman, because the 4 years go by so fast. And what's that freshman thinking about? And how do you know? But providing, it's a company called Youth Science. Again, used it, and they provide an assessment that, 1, measures their interest, 2, measures their aptitude, and the 2 intersect, and they provide then careers based upon interest and aptitude that the kid has. And at that point in time, you've started them down their path, because that kid then goes, wow, yeah, that's right, and it's amazing how right it is. It's incredible. But that's what you're able to do, is to get the kids on a track and thinking about it, and then executing that plan. These are the classes I need to take to match what I've been told by youth science. And YOU science And it's phenomenal. And you know what? Create an account, you take it too. It's fascinating how you can find out about yourself. But anyway, like I said, Nashville, you go out and find out places that have done this and have done well with it. And you can go over to Alexandria and they do it. It's a little different. Their student population is remarkably different than it is here. But the fit is here. And so by all means, that's what I would tell you. But anyway, good luck and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Doug, for coming and helping us out. Anybody else? We're on board highlights. I guess we kind of did board highlights a little bit ago. Anybody else have any comments on board highlights?
Thank Mr. Froke for his time and wish him well wishes on his next adventures.
For sure. We're on unfinished business, Mr. Brook, what do we got?
Unfinished business.
I got something. I was wondering, has there been any progress made on the school board agenda meeting being translated into Spanish as well? We talked about this at the last board meeting. And you guys were gonna kind of check amongst the staff to see, if it was feasible, kind of how much was gonna be translated and stuff like that.
We checked around other districts that do or don't. Found out there's same do or don'ts. Found out it's a little difficult to get somebody to translate. And then would depend on what you want to call translated. If just the agenda, that would be a too hard thing, but if we went into the full minutes, et cetera, it would get more, which would then get into the newspaper, which costs us more that way. I guess we didn't go any further.
Okay. Well, I guess since over half of our community speaks Spanish, I think it'd probably be something that we should do moving forward. Even if it's just like the agenda and then the key highlights would probably be beneficial. I know getting all 136 pages is probably unrealistic, but I at least think the agenda going forward.
I think it's in El Libre, isn't it not?
Well, even if like on our Facebook page and stuff like that.
We'd have to probably I'm sure talk to the translators to see how fast they could get it out too, because I know they're busy.
ChatGPT does all of my translating for me.
Is it Spanish that they all can understand, or is it different dialects?
So it actually gives you two different options to pick from. So you go with the more traditional or more kind of Spanish. So, but I mean, even if the agenda doesn't have much on it, I think our translators would be able to knock it out in 45 minutes.
That would be something the office staff would
I
take
would
care
think
of
we
that.
need office staff. We're gonna put that on his agenda right away.
Okay.
Okay, we'll, yeah, I guess we kind of put that out of the head because we were busy doing things. We will take a look at it. All right, any more unfinished business? All righty. And the new business then, the donations, and we got a list again. Oscar Jacobson, American Legion, gave $550 for football. Oscar Jacobson, American Legion gave $100 for prom. Oscar Jacobson Legion gave $600 for football. And Oscar Jacobson gave $250 for the athletic banquet. Sherry Pung gave $150 for FFA. Freedom Wash gave $500 for golf. Magnify Financial gave $50 for golf. Long Prairie Lions gave $500 for the Web Crew fishing event. The Red Cross gave $1,500 for Dollars for Scholars. Gray Eagle Cemetery Association gave $300 for the marching band to go over there and participate in Memorial Day. The Flavor Shack gave $200 for track. Impact Tech Foundation gave $2,000 for Dollars for Scholars. Our Way gave $1,000 for welding. Minnesota National Bank gave $500 for the weight room. LP Lumber gave $250 for the weight room. Long Prairie Lions gave $4,526.77 to the trap team. Gremler Financial Group LLC gave $50 to Stan Hortness Memorial Scholarship. Long Prairie Dairy Queen gave $100 to the weight room. Breitfeld Group gave $50 to the weight room. Phillips Repairables and Collision Center gave $500 to the weight room. And Charlotte Tavern gave $150 to the weight room. Let it be known that this school district truly, truly appreciates all these wonderful donations. I need a motion to accept those.
I move to accept the donation.
I'll second that.
Lordy. Any discussion? Any discussions? Any more discussions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we have the teachers that achieved their tenure, and congratulations to all of them. Do we need to motion on those, or is that just, we need a motion?
Probably a good idea.
Do we do all 13 together?
You can.
I'll make the motion to accept the tenured teacher list for elementary and high school.
I'll second it.
Jeremiah. Is there any discussion or any questions you have for the principals? Any more discussion or questions?
Madam Chair, I would just point out as a point of clarity for the board, as it relates to Lisa Marty, she is a speech language pathologist at 0.6 FTE. So as she is granted continuing contract status, her continuing contract status is at 0.6. Okay, so as you get, just kind of keeping that with the seniority list and that kind of thing. Everybody else on the list here is 0.10 because she's worked in that tenure status at 0.6, then that's her 0.6 is where she's given continuing contract or tenure.
So if she ever came back and worked full-time, would she have to go through 3 years?
No. No, once you extended a full-time contract to her, she would be right then and there. Yep. She would have 1.0 at tenured at 1.0 at that time.
So one last time, any questions or discussion on the tenures? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, you want to talk about the preliminary budget?
Sure. I'll put this up initially and put this up initially. So again, the picture of the budget is a picture of the financial affairs of the district in a calendar or a fiscal year. Okay, so it doesn't stretch out into 14 months, it doesn't stretch out, or it isn't 9 months, it's 12 months, and it captures the district's financial activity. Okay, and that's very important because we take a look at items that are in flux throughout the course of the year, particularly building projects. They take time, and as such, then they run over that they can run over that 12-month period of time, or we could start a project in June, and obviously it finishes in August. Well, you've run over 2 different fiscal years. So that's very important to remember. It's a snapshot in time of what the district's revenues and expenditures are from July 1 to June 30. Okay, so as you take a look, then the other part of that is that there are 2 pieces to a budget. 2 pieces are revenues and expenditures. And then you meld the 2 together to see how the district is doing from a fiscal standpoint. That's at this particular point in time. I put the expenditures the expenditure summary for the board up on the screen. As it goes, because we spent time talking about the legislative session and the fact that it ran over, it did not allow the district time to adequately put together a budget, particularly on the revenue side, that would accurately reflect what it could receive. So what's happened here, and I understand it is common practice, is that the district has taken and rolled over the existing budget to operate in the time being until better data can become available. That rollover then does one thing, the main thing, and that is on July 1, the board, the district has to have a budget in place statutorily to allow it to pay bills. And that meets, this rollover meets that obligation. So pending your approval, you'll have the ability, the district, the district office will have the ability to pay bills. So that's what this does. So the March revision was the catalyst for what's in front of you this evening, particularly from a expenditure sideline, well, I should say particularly from a revenue side. We do know what those revenues are going to be. We just didn't have the structure internally to be able to put that down in a formatted sequence because that comes from the department. Okay, so that's where we're at this particular point in time. The big thing that I would talk about as it relates to a rollover and the expenses would be Fund 1. And so there was a little, we did make a little change relative to the expenditure budget in that under Fund 1, the general fund, we did remove the interim superintendent contract, which was in the March revision. So that is out to accurately reflect those expenses. And then 2, we took out we reduced the legal expenses budget by $30,000. So those 2 items then were taken out, and so to get it, because we knew those things could be pulled out. At this particular point in time, there is no, again, because it's a rollover, there is nothing put in for inflation. Okay, at this particular point in time. Maybe you'll do that in October. Maybe you won't. Again, as you go and deal with the issues around the employee negotiations, that's what will be in this revised budget. Okay. I want to go down to construction. Okay. This is construction fund is Fund 6. This is the expense side. Again, going back to what we talked about when we started, that this is a picture of 12 months. A lot of this is the expense side. This is a carryover from March. Those will things that you will update. And again, we talked about the potential of a revision in October. Those numbers will be, that'll be a key part of the project, will be identifying the expense side of the construction project, of which the district has many. Obviously, we just got going through all of that. Harmony Park, the flashers, the field, the turf field, the HVAC, all of those things. That's going to be that'll be a large part of Sherry's work in September and the early part of October is bringing that number a little bit closer than what to reality, because now we're distancing ourselves from March, right? So just so, but we had to have a number in there, so we did that. So that's the expense side. The revenue side then, again, is brought over from, as a rollover from fiscal '25 or the '24-25 school year. And again, you take a look at general fund, there are no changes there. Again, food service, community service, construction of 540. That number will change. That number of 540,000, because the bonds or the certificates of participation we received in May. So that's on there in this fiscal year. So you know that number will look bigger and a bigger reflection.
Where is that number reflected in here right now? Is that number reflected in?
No, it's not.
Okay, where is that number now?
Where is that?
Where is that money right now?
It's
What
in-
fund balance is it reflected in?
It's in an account with Zion Financial Institution.
Okay,
So just like the money, the abatement dollars are held with Ellers, this is held with Zion Financial Institution. The certificates of participation for the turf.
and if we need it, we're gonna draw it out and
Correct,
put it in here.
correct.
Okay.
Yep. So, and then as you get into debt redemption, that's how you receive the tax dollars in, they go out to pay off the principal and mortgage, right? Or it's like a mortgage, the principal and interest, right? To go out and pay those projects, HVAC, and then the turf and project will go out, this first payment will go out this year too.
One more quick question.
Sure.
Do we pay the food service director out of Fund 2?
Out of Fund 2,
Okay,
correct.
all right.
Okay. So here then, I kind of hit a little bit about on all of these issues, but I just want to review it. I just want to review that for you, just to make sure that, we touched on everything impacting the budget. Again, we talked about the rollover. We talked about the fact that you need to have a budget in place, you need to take action tonight. As you do in June. I understand it's customary that you do rollover. And then also, the fact that it is a picture of 12 months of the activities of the district. And then take a look at the preliminary budget based on an ADM enrollment of 982. Look at there, same as fiscal 2025. Well, what do we know about what we learned about our enrollment, right? For fiscal 25, the new ADM came out, 997. Very strong likelihood we're going to roll over 1,000 in ADMs, I would say, by the time you see things in September. I don't know why we'd change it. In other words, in fiscal 25, we were funded on an ADM number of 982, which we met, and obviously now we're going to get that money because we had more kids, we'll receive more dollars. I don't know why we'd change it. Maybe and run 982 back for the 25-26 school year. We don't know, especially the mobility factor that we talked about earlier. So that will be the number, and I would guess even in October that will be the number. Sherry, certainly feel free to.
Yeah, unless we see a major change one way or the other, we'll just keep it right where it's at. Cause then we can, what happens is if we stay at that 9 or 1,000 level, we'll just put more money that'll come to us when the state pays us off. So So they always catch up to us if we, put our student population lower.
Item 5 and item 6. We hit on both of those. Item 7, we touched on. Geez, not containment stuff. Contaminants. They were again, they still remain in play as we deal with attrition and those kinds of things, so they remain in play. Items 9 and 10. So that's what we have. We have a lot on the table, no doubt about it. A lot of things, and it's going to continue to be that way as the legislature deals with 80% of most of the school district budgets are state funded. And their auditor will talk about that. We're not quite at that level, but it's close. So you're married to the state. That's where it goes. Any questions?
So the 2026 budget that you want us, that we're gonna approve tonight, the expenditure is probably somewhat realistic. The revenue side of things is just a broad snapshot, right?
Yeah.
Madam Chair, I move that we accept the fiscal 2026 budget as this evening.
Okay, we have a motion by Chuck, need a second on
I'll
it.
second it.
Any more questions or discussion on that? Thanks for a good report, that was enlightening, for sure. Any more discussions or questions? Discussion or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Language access plan. Who's going to speak to us about that?
You can? Okay, I can. Go ahead.
If you want to
Go ahead, you're good.
Okay, so this is a collaboration of a lot of staff members, including Amy Larson and Mr. Rude, myself, and also, yes, Juice. And then our Hispanic liaisons as well at school and our school secretaries. And this is a requirement by the state. It will need to go into our parent handbooks and on our website. We do have it translated into Spanish already. Adanya did that before she left for summer vacation or summer break. And then, so it just goes through all of the different things. The state gave us a template and we went through how our district handles families that come in that have different language needs, including sign language, including different languages. And we've started to implement many of these things and the rest will be implemented as the school year starts. So does anybody have any questions? There's a lot of information in it.
This is a new policy for the coming school year.
It is, it's more of a plan than a policy because it will be, there's things that in it that will change and be an ongoing changing thing, but yes, this is something new.
And we need a motion to approve that.
I believe yes, right?
Yeah, I would. Yeah.
I move to approve the plan.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the language access plan further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, this goes back to what we talked about before. We had our hearing to renew the district operating levy. So in case you have more questions, we can do them, or we could just make a motion and go from there.
This extends it from 10 years from the end of the current term.
Yep. I think that makes 11 years, right? Are we a year left?
Right.
So 11 years from now, we would. I need a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Motion, do I have a second? Any further discussion on that? Any further discussions?
Good thinking.
I think, yeah. Any further discussions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, the last thing on the agenda is that last little piece of paper you have in front of you, that's the agreement and release of all claims. This was something legal thought we needed to do to clarify the transition between Doug and Daniel. So these are the contingencies that were there, all the whereases and therefores. Doug and I have talked about this for a while. It just explains fully how he's going to get paid for his unused vacation, unused sick leave, things like that. Any questions in there that you kind of let us over tonight a little bit? Doug has something, as you can see on the bottom of the paper. I guess I would answer for questions if you had a question. I explained it.
So this is the dispute over that last month of August, right?
August, July, and August.
July and August, okay. And so with this then, we're just providing insurance going forward for the next year.
Right.
I guess I would make a motion on accepting the agreement and release all claims.
Okay, we have a motion,
I'll second it.
a second. Is there any further discussion, questions? Any further discussion or questions? Any further discussion or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And I just want to say thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure knowing you. Hope to see you again sometime. Come on over, might give you another turn, Kelly.
Toast.
Told you, English muffin bread and butter and milk. It works good. Okay, I believe